We are a quarter of the way through 2025 as people keep dutifully reminding me as a way to cause me to panic. But with that comes one thing, a quarter of the way through our reading year. And today I would like to talk about what I've been reading in 2025 and go over some of my favorites to perhaps get away from some of that doom and gloom that we're hitting on the everyday media sphere and news cycle and everything else, and introduce you to perhaps some good books that you might like to pick up for the remainder of 2025. This is my new writing mug. Isn't it beautiful? It's a gift from my mum. I love it. It's awesome. Anyway, so far in 2025, I've read 15 books, and I'm going to share 5 of my favorites. 2025 hasn't actually been my best reading year. I've struggled to get into a rhythm and cycle, and I've accepted that's okay. However, there are a few that I would like to share with you because I think they are fantastic books, and I think there's value in sharing the beautiful things that we read and the things that matter to us. The first one I have for you today is Dusk by Robbie Arnott. Dusk is a beautiful story by one of my favorite Australian authors of all time. Robbie is fantastic in the way that he writes, and the way that I'm going to describe it today is like this. Imagine you've taken a picture and you put it into your editing program. You turn the vibrant up to 100 and you turn the saturation up to 100. You get all those beautiful colors punching you in the face with description and really bringing the image to life. It's a little bit over the top, but in the most beautiful way, where it gives you everything from a scene and everything from a place. And that is the way that Robbie Arnott writes. Robbie Arnott's story style is beautiful, and his prose and his pacing is just gorgeous. And this is, I think, his 4th novel, and it's the 3rd one I've read, and I really love this novel. A puma named Dusk is killing shepherds, and twins Iris and Floyd are out of money and need to find work, so they join in on the hunt to try capture Dusk with a bounty reward, only to discover that they perhaps don't want to do it in the conventional way, and they don't want to kill Dusk. And it follows this story through beautiful landscape and beautiful worlds, and following this beautiful puma. It's really emotional, and I think what I really love about this story and what I love about books like this is you walk away from it feeling almost alive. You kind of feel alive, you kind of feel honest, you kind of feel there's something there, and you use that emotion. And that's what I want from my stories. That's what I want from books. That's what I want from novels such as this. I want to feel something. I want it to be raw. I want it to move me in a way and last with me a little bit longer. And I think Robbie Arnott does a fantastic job at making you feel that on a long-term basis. Beartown by Fredrik Backman. Fredrik Backman is one of my favorite authors of all time. This is a reread, so I'm not going to do too much on this, but it follows an ice hockey team in a small town somewhere in what I think is Sweden. It follows a star junior hockey player and him sexually assaulting the general manager's daughter, the uncovering of that story. And it's the rights and the wrongs in a town. It's those emotive decisions. It's those big moments and what you prioritize as human beings. It's the ethical dilemma of, should he still be able to play, or do you need to reconstruct? It's that ethical dilemma of who to trust and who to believe, and what kind of consequences such actions have. But it's just a really beautiful description on hockey as a sport, but sporting culture. And the characters are some of my favorite that ever existed. There's a character in this book named Benji, and Benji is my favorite fictional character of all time in his own beautiful way. It is raw, it is emotive, and if anyone ever gets the ability to write half the way that Fredrik Backman does, I think the world would be a better place. I want to see more of this kind of writing in the world. I want to see more authors that are doing this. And for me, this is a 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm probably going to read it quite often throughout the years. But this one for me is a reread, but it's still one of my favorites this year. The third one for me is Three Boys Gone by Mark Smith. Mark Smith is an Australian author, and this book follows the journey of three boys rushing into the ocean on an outrigger trip down the coast, and the ethical dilemma of Grace Disher deciding whether she follows them into the ocean and tries to save them or leaves them to drown, and then the aftermath of what happens next. It is fast paced, it's a thriller, it's a page turner, and the pacing is fantastic. Mark is a great author and talks about the ocean in a way that I really admire. And having got to know Mark a little bit, it's really cool to see inside his head this way. This is one of my favorites by a long way, and I'm really glad that I got the chance to read it and pick up a copy of. I don't have a physical copy of this one. My fourth one and my favorite book of the year so far, The Golden Spruce by John Valiant. I'll put it somewhere on the screen. The Golden Spruce follows the journey of a spruce tree up on the Pacific Northwest coast on an island, Hyder Island, and this tree that's hundreds of years old and happens to be a rarity where rather than being a green tree, it gives golden needles. It's a beautiful golden yellow that ignites a forest in a sea of green trees. It stands out like a sore thumb and has been growing for hundreds of years. This story follows the discovering of the island by James Cook many years ago, and it discovers and it uncovers what the history of the Pacific Northwest is and British Columbia. Fun fact, British Columbia, where I currently live. You can fit the size of California, Oregon, Washington, and then New England within the state of British Columbia. That's how big it is. That's how grand it is. And there's something really cool in that. But they're following the logging industry. There's a long, rich history, and this book follows logging from the 1700s right through to currently now, and really describing what impact that had until the golden spruce and the tail of the golden spruce is cut down. And it follows this story and this journey and this understanding of native people to the land and the current exploration. And I just think it's a really interesting depiction on not only our current landscape, but also the future of what it looks like. And whether you're looking at it, climate change or capitalism or logging or fisheries or any of those kind of industries, this is a really cool in-depth depiction of those places and those things. And I think the issues that stem from those are all very similar, and how we start to move forward. And perhaps there isn't that way, but what we can preserve and what we can keep as beautiful forest and beautiful oceans and beautiful lands. I found it really inspiring, and I found it beautiful more than anything else, and tragic and heartbreaking, and it doesn't really read like nonfiction. My only issue with it was the sequencing. I felt like was a little bit off. There was one sequence probably 2/3 of the way in that I kind of wish was more towards the end rather than sort of caught like 2/3 of the way in, but beggars can't be choosers, and I didn't write it and it wasn't my decision. So fully in stance with John Valiant. I think what he does is incredible. I've read 3 of his books, and the amount of research and detail and storytelling that goes into these books is phenomenal. Not to mention that I think he writes books like fiction. So he writes nonfiction that reads like fiction, and I think that's a really powerful sentiment in itself. That's The Golden Spruce. That's my favorite book so far this year. I am a quarter of the way into my reading, and I look forward to updating this next. However, what I will do is I will leave you with what I am currently reading. The Vanished Bird by Simon Gemenzi. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm about 150 pages in. It's a time travel sci-fi story that has multiple points of view, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's got that time travel sci-fi element. It's got rich backstory, and it has introduced this world in a really functional, pleasing way, I should say. What I really like about it is that it has introduced those characters and how they're kind of starting to overlap as I'm sort of getting halfway through the book. I haven't seen anyone talk about this. I don't really know how it goes. My mum recommended it. I've picked it up. I'm reading it. I'm enjoying it. I have found reading this year to be harder than it has been in a while. And I think part of that is the media cycle and scrolling and the news and all those silly things that we do. But I think it is important to pick up books, and I think it is important to read because it clarifies our brain. It gives us different points of view. It entertains us. It gives us empathy. It allows us to learn and be and understand that we're all humans, and I've become a better human through reading books. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it gives you some value and some elements that you enjoy and want to go forward with in your life. Reading has saved my life, and art has saved my life thousands of times over, and I'm not going to go further into that right now, but I just want to share that and enjoy your reading. Let me know what you're reading in the comments. I would love to hear if you have read any of these books and what you feel about them. And if not, let me know if you're going to read any of them. And if not, let me know what you're reading and if you've got any good recommendations of your own. I'm always happy and looking forward to pick up new books of different stories and from things that I may not have discovered on my own. I've got a big stack of books that I'm taking home with me. Got 10 Australian books that I'm really looking forward to and getting stuck into. But in the meantime, this is what I'm reading. That is what I've read so far this year. They're my favorites. And I look forward to seeing you back here next week and in the comments. In the meantime, be kinder than you think you need to be and look after yourselves.